Thank you. And actually, that works out perfectly into our next slide, where the virtual services time bank kind of holds the mission, but what I think of as the Karmic Margin Call Project holds the vision. So the vision is that we are creating freedom from the pressures of poverty and war, one heart, one relationship, one fellowship at a time. So I believe expansion really just comes back to, what we're doing here in this moment, and how we're tending to each other. So that's what that vision means to me. And I use the word war because what I've been experiencing, especially this week, is that people are war-minded, and it comes back to that conversation of people trying to prove they're right, who is right, and there's a whole nother playing field about exploring what is right. So I'm not afraid to use the word war because I think there is a lot of psychological warfare being played out right now. And the vision of the Karmic Margin Call Project is to create experiences free from that. Before I would say, in my own arrogance and in my own, in my own limited vision, I would say we can end war and we can end poverty. But there's always going to be people who want that, who want to have that experience. So the vision that I'm kind of focusing on is, how do we create experiences free from that? So we hold the vision that creating economic stability and social equality are very simple. But the challenge really lies in facilitating the mutually trusting relationships between individuals. Art, education, and entrepreneurship are at the intersection of these relationships. So as we start talking about, what is a fellowship, what kinds of fellowships am I observing, there will be specific niches that come up about specific areas of spirituality or specific areas of art or specific areas of education. But these are really just at the intersection. What really matters is how people are communicating to each other, how, we're really practicing generous listening and committed speaking. So the Karmic Margin Call Project is kind of like the vision side. It holds the ethical vision of the time bank, which executes the mission. So I have those cells up there on this slide here, so that we're all kind of cells budding at our own pace. So this idea of regeneration, creating a regenerative economy out of our deepening our relationships, is what comes up for me, and why I use that image of the cells, kind of dividing and spreading out. So not only are we kind of like our own cell as far as our socioeconomic value, but also those cells kind of also represent fellowships that kind of turn into fellowships and branch out. So that's why I included that image with the vision statement that is just coming to me at this moment. So again, I'll open it up. Any thoughts, feelings, responses to the Karmic Margin Call Project vision?
I absolutely love this slide. It tells a great story. Just looking at those, you can be a fellowship of 4, of 2, of 6. And where you started is exactly where I start. And I made a commitment in 2004 to start with the heart. Physically and figuratively speaking. And I'm working with this thing called heart work, which is where, I want, even in my creativity programs and projects and collaborations, where I want people to have the heart speaking from the heart. And again, this goes back to what I said earlier, this idea of standing still and peacefully in a point and radiating, transmitting, rather than trying to force or chase after something, or so the heart, I think, is so beautiful, and then seeing how it kind of unfolds and blooms from there with the fellowship. So thank you for because I had forgotten that, but thank you for reminding me again.
Thank you, Martin.
Heart.
Yeah, and what comes up for me too is just, letting go, surrendering, and just letting nature take its course. In a way, it's kind of like imitating nature. Nature doesn't have to force itself. It just, you know, blossoms when it's meant to. Yeah.
In the vision, I believe it was trust.
Mm-hmm. The trusting relationships. Yeah.
Relationships that has been a very key factor in how I've learned to approach myself and others, like
Mm-hmm.
with that trusting nature and allowing that experience as it is, the trust in that, you know. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, trust is a big thing. Yeah, emotionally, moving up the emotional scale too, and understanding the emotional scale. Trust is huge. Yes, thank you.
I wasn't really going to comment on this slide, but I'll just throw in like an observation, which is that there are a number of projects going on that are very, very worthy around housing for the homeless and feeding people that haven't got access to food and so on. But in my experience, there isn't that space because people are so rushed off their feet doing all the things they feel they need to be doing. I can't get hold of them to say, okay, can we sit down and just talk about things?
Yes.
So there's kind of a gap there for me.
Yes. Exactly. That's precisely what I'm experiencing too, Parmjit. It's just, hey, I know you're busy. I know you got a lot of things going on. But there's a lot of great opportunity here. There's so many wonderful initiatives. If we can just sit down and find those intersections and then acting on them, finding the way to act on them. Yeah. Let's go back to my screen here. So here is the 5-year plan. Come on, I'll share it. So I'm going to just kind of put out the 5-year plan, and I'm not really going to touch on this too much because again, I want to bring it back to us, back to us, Marta. I want to bring it back to us. But yeah, so this year, 2021, and that might look a little small writing, but I'll read it out loud too. This year is just all about fellowship establishment. Whatever comes, just will naturally come with with the deepening of our relationships and our content. What I'm going to be focusing on this year is filming a documentary just about these conversations, just about helping everyone take the time to just sit down and find each other's value. And I think Parmjit, you really articulated it so well. It's kind of like we're all stuck in our own lanes that we don't really see what others are doing, and that takes it takes the time, and it's a risk. It almost like it's taking a risk, to sit down for an hour with someone and really explore each other's ideas. So I want to make a film about those connections, and just start the 2x2 trend, which we've already done, and just helping people understand that the way forward, the way to move faster is to slow down. And that's how 1 becomes 2 and 2 becomes 4 and so on and so forth. But it comes back to that individual. So the goal for the end of this year, and it's a very conservative goal, is to establish 32 core fellowship members here by the end of the year. And it could happen quickly, it could happen slowly, but that's just kind of like the structure that I'm putting in my mind for this year that I'm aiming for. And logging 640 hours in fellowship and service hours. And to me, that's that can be very easy if we're taking the time for each other. And I think what's happening in our world today is a perfect opportunity for us now to kind of step away and say, look, what's really going on? You know, where are we really at? So that's what this year is all about for me. I'm just going to touch on the next 4 years, you know, but they're still out there. They're still in the future. And again, this is my own mansplaining and my own, machinations going on here. But in 2022, I'll be focusing on helping and supporting others establish one-on-one relationships, to just play with the software, to just play with this idea that everything you do together in fellowship and in service matters. And it's just working with the technology to start logging the hours. And that could be fun. And I'm in this process now of learning how to have fun doing that, and to share the experience of having fun doing that. And the goal for the end of next year is just 2,000 member owners of this bank, and logging 40,000 hours, which would be on par with some of the more sustained time banks in the world right now. And then three to 4 years from now, we'll start working on the reverse market mechanical aspect of it. And then, 5 years from now, that's when I foresee it getting automated, and, we really start creating a regenerative economy that makes a difference in the extractive economy. So I'm talking a lot. I've already, done this in another presentation, so I'm going to harp on it, but this is just what I'm envisioning on my personal path in establishing this. And, if you want to offer a response or a feeling, I'd love to hear it, but that's just, this is just me. This is just where my structure is taking me.
I think it makes sense to focus on the actual linking up, the fellowship,
Yes.
the people thing, and just leave the other kind of thing to do its thing, but not focus on it like, hey, these are the mechanics and all of that, because I think that does put people off, whereas they understand all the stuff about fellowship and trust.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What was the other thing I was going to say? Somebody else chip in while I think what the other thing was.
I just wanted to add that what you're creating here is very useful in speaking with people who are just getting to, and I know that's why you're doing it, but I'm just finding all the ways now in my mind, and even the people that I might want to approach with what you've designed, even in those first 5 slides or so. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, we're only going to do probably the first 6 or 7 or so today, and I'll save the rest of it for down the road, because
Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think my question was about so what do we say to people? Is that going to come later in your presentation, or?
You know what? I think that's a great place to end our conversation when we're done. When I'm done, the next 1 or 2 slides here. What do we say? What first comes up for me is we don't have to say anything. I just think it's about asking questions. It's just like, I resonate with you. What are you thinking and feeling? What do you really want? And kind of exploring. Just exploring. There is no magic formula. There is no sales pitch. There is no method. It's just, this is me, this is you. I keep thinking of the Gestalt prayer, when I'm in somebody else's energy field and I'm feeling the emotions, the prayer is, I'm not put in this world to live up to your expectations, and you're not in this world to live up to mine. If we get together and we see eye to eye, that's a beautiful thing. And if we don't, it can't be helped. And I'll add my own personal to that. Maybe it's just not meant to be at this time, but we're all works in progress. We're all, in a process here. And that maybe this moment where we don't see eye to eye was just planting the seed for something that will blossom later on. And that's okay. I honor that. It's great. So to answer your question, Parmjit, maybe it's not a matter of knowing the right thing to say to people. It's just a matter of being in the space and, acknowledging what is, what is.
Yeah.
The
I
thing
like
is,
that you brought that up though, Parmjit, because I do see this as a tool to help me craft the very distinct, maybe pitches or conversations that I might have with this person or that person. Like as soon as I saw that, I thought, oh, this is perfect. I can create a conversation with a colleague of mine inside of a context of innovation and coming up with innovative concepts that we can either focus on or put our attention on for this year or the next year, and then using these slides inside of that. So I'm already in my mind starting to craft a kind of conversation I could have with that person. Then I'm thinking of more of like a creative individual, like what will I say to them using these same 4 or 5 slides that speaks to them. So this idea of speaking to the listening of the person that I'm identifying in my mind, because everybody hears the information differently. So it's not necessarily like, Mike, what should I say to this person? It's more like understanding the people and the relationships that I have, and what about this, what key point or what spark of inspiration can I focus on to start that conversation with that person. And then I'm the one formulating what there is to say. And like Mike, I'm interested in hearing more and asking questions, more like a discovery or an interview with people, and using these slides as just sort of tools to open up that conversation.
well, I think it's something about it. At what point does networking and having a nice chat and resonating and talking, fairly regularly with somebody that you resonate with, at what point does that tip into a situation where you can start saying, okay, let me tell you, or let me ask you what you think about this idea of fellowship and equal partnership?
What comes up for me is asking, we've been talking for a while. We've been in this, we've already been in fellowship for a while. Are you willing to have that commitment? Are you willing to have a commitment to doing something, to taking action together, as a fellowship, as a team? It might be as simple as that. I don't know. Let me ask all of you. I mean, to me, it's obvious that we're all already committed, but you know, what does commitment mean to you? Are you committed? To me, you are, but maybe that's something you're still exploring.
So what is it committed to? Simply meeting and throwing ideas around? Or is it like, okay, we've been meeting informally because we kind of are interested in the other,
Mhm.
and now we've formed some kind of a way we can work together,
Mhm.
and that's when it starts. That's when the clock starts, or when you kind of say, well, what about an equal partnership?
I can
But no,
tell you what my experience has been, because I've been actually that space of where time kind of dissolves, and you're like in a conversation with somebody, and it's just back and forth information, and it's very igniting, and you're like, wow, I would love to know more about that, or it could be about anything really. And I've been asking people, like, do you ever have that experience where time just kind of disappears and you're just like involved in whatever you're involved with? And then like I kind of talk to them more about that. And I try, and not try, but well, I do try by
Mhm. Mhm.
remembering that my time is an asset, as is your time, as is the time whoever I'm talking to, be it for 5 minutes or like 5 hours. Really I've had conversations with people, and like after doing that for enough time, like you could actually have a concrete, applicable way to track this moment we're sharing and have it benefit us. and there's a lot more moving pieces involved, and I'm looking forward to like exploring and building and sharing it with those who resonate, like what Marta was saying, because it does me no justice to pull and drag and
Yeah.
so like just having that space again and to see where it leads.
And similar to what you said, Nefertiti, it's that it's building trustworthiness.
Yeah.
Because I'm finding in my own experience and through, my growing and evolving of my own business and in my own professional career, people invest in me and in my ideas after I've built some trust with them and proven and created a track record of over time. Again, talking about Chronos and Kairos time. So the Chronos aspect of it, it's like over time I've built through, whether it's through conversations, whether it's through making a promise to deliver on something and then delivering on it, and that starts to gain momentum and traction. And the more I do that, the more trustworthiness there is. And so where I am now, then, and again, I don't try to strategize this. It seems to be more like my natural way of doing things. And so, again, going back to that biomimicry, it's like I'm going to trust my own creative process. And that at a point then where I can recognize when I can make that really big sort of like jump into the void with me kind of conversation with someone, where it sometimes requires sign on the dotted line, and we're going to exchange 50,000, 30,000, 10,000, 1,000, $2 to kind of solidify and make this real in a very real, like out in the world. I don't know how else to explain it, but that's what it inspired for me, is like you're building this trustworthiness and you're building a track record so that you can then very simply ask the fellowship or the people that you're talking to, you're going, let's jump into, let's take this quantum leap together. Let's sign on the dotted line. Let's commit certain resources to the success of this particular concept or project.
Can I just ask about what happened with Nefertiti's, like 4 people? Are they in a fellowship with? Are they in a fellowship with you, Nefertiti, or are they like 4 of them?
Well, 2 of them are with our performance, The Wizard of Iz. And so one is helping me with some of the legal issues I've experienced last year, because she has experience in that field. And the other and I are getting together and working on computers. We're having computing conversations every week. And so that's how that grew to be. And we've been in the project for years with Wizard of Iz, now on my watch productions. And then the other 2 are close friends of mine. One, a relationship that did just develop in the past year. And the other one I've known for quite some time. Our children grew up together, so good 15 years. And yeah, again, it's just more so having the conversation about why not? That's the space that I held in, I leaned into with all 4 of them. And the need was there. I definitely, last year was a little bit of a blow. I was looking forward to hearing the ocean waves as I went to sleep at night, and, having to adjust and having that support from somebody else who can also hold me accountable and make that process to do the paperwork I need, do the things that I really don't want to, but it's in the best interest. And then with the woman who is involved with the Wizard of Iz, and she enjoys being online, as we all do. This is a connection that we have here, but not everyone has been able to work a computer as well as, we would like to. So I can support her in that exploration. And, I see her every week anyway, so why not? So, and like had Mike said too, to always, not always, but to incorporate the play, and relax into it, you know. So that's helped me a lot too.
Yeah, and what comes up for me too is thinking in terms of time,
Hmm.
time as currency. If the alternative is that these hours don't mean anything, and we're just being extracted. Our energy is being extracted through the extractive economy. But if we are conscious of the time that we're spending together and we log it, and we put some sort of capital value to that, we're turning it into a regenerative economy. So those hours that Nefertiti spends helping Janet, well, I'll say her name, Janet, with the computer, or that time that Karen, who is our other friend, helps Nefertiti with legal issues, that can either be throwaway time to the extractive economy, or it can be equity in a regenerative economy. And that's what comes up for me listening to all of this. We can either throw that time away, or we can harvest it. We can start accounting for it and start building a new story, start building a new regenerative economy by logging that, by being consciously aware of that time that we're spending together. And I think what that does is it honors the person, it honors the fellowship, and it makes us all more valuable. Because in an extractive economy, we're commodities. I mean, if you want to put a number to it, regardless of how successful a business is or how successful you think you are, in an extractive economy, they're taking over $4, of your life away, regardless of what you're doing. So that's what I'm seeing, is that because of global debt and because of all of that, we're being commodified. But when we are acknowledging that relationship, and we're giving each other and exchanging those hours, we're making each other more valuable.